happy International Women in Engineering Day. I am Kameelah S. Majied, and I am so excited to be your moderator for Discovery's conversation series for women in engineering and tech. Guess what? I'm an engineer, a project management professional, and currently the director of operations at Merck, a large global pharmaceutical company. I am also an avid community service advocate, and I'm deeply passionate about creating inclusive environments in STEM. And I'm proud to say that I am a 27-year lifetime member of the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE, and also a 25-year lifetime member of the Society of Women Engineers, SWE. So Discovery is honored to co-host today's event with the Congressional Women in STEM Caucus. We are also proud to continue our partnership with the Women in Engineering Proactive Network, or WEPAN. Together, we are building community and creating change to help women and girls in STEM reach their fullest potential. Now, before I introduce today's distinguished panelists, let's talk a little bit about why we are here today. In order to tackle today's global challenges, there is a critical need to attract and retain a diverse engineering and technical workforce. But research shows that there is the majority of today's high school students that simply don't understand what engineering is, and they don't know that engineering is open to everyone. They think that all STEM jobs require a 4-year degree and don't realize that engineering and technical teams were made up of several different positions, including specialists and technicians with 2-year degrees. So Discovery and our partners are challenging the STEM and educational community to expand how we present engineering and work to create a welcoming and inclusive STEM environment across all educational and workplace settings. Achieving gender and racial equity in engineering and technology is bigger than any one person, any program, or organization. It will take the collective efforts of many. So today's conversation will explore the role everyone can play in addressing this critical issue. So at this time, I would like to introduce our co-host, which is the Congressional Women in STEM Caucus. Today, we will hear from two distinguished co-chairs, U.S. Representatives Young Kim and Chrissy Houlihan, who both have video remarks to share with you. So we're going to begin first with Congresswoman Young Kim, who represents California's 40th district and is one of the first Korean American women to be elected to Congress. She serves on the House Financial Services Committee and Foreign Affairs Committee, where she is the chairwoman of the Indo-Pacific Subcommittee. In addition to the Women in STEM Caucus, she also co-chairs the Maternity Care Caucus. So let's hear the video from Congresswoman Young Kim.
Hi, I'm Young Kim, representative for California's 40th Congressional District, and that includes parts of Orange, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. I'm excited to join you all on International Women in Engineering Day as we discuss the future of women and girls in engineering and technology. So I want to thank Discover E for putting together this important discussion. As you know all too well, STEM education expands opportunities for all students, strengthens our economy, bolsters our national security, and increases our nation's global competitiveness. We need all hands on deck to tackle our nation's challenges and ensure the United States remains a leader in science, technology, engineering, and math. That is why STEM workforce and education initiatives are top priorities of mine in Congress. And I'm proud to serve as co-chair of the Women in STEM Caucus. Women make up half of our nation's workforce, but not even 1/3 of our nation's STEM workforce. So I want to bridge that gap and ensure students of all backgrounds can learn the skills needed to get good paying jobs and become creative problem solvers. Last Congress, my bipartisan bill, the Informer Innovations in STEM Learning Act, became law through the CHIPS Act to support programs that help students learn STEM concepts outside of the classroom, such as after-school programs. I also served as co-chair of the Congressional App Challenge, which encourages middle and high school students to learn coding concepts and create an app. My congressional district led the largest app challenge in history, with 192 student teams participating. The apps we've seen from coast to coast in our country could also make an impact and save lives. A high school freshman, a young woman named Dayna, for example, is a Congressional App Challenge winner from my district. She created an app that uses AI machine learning to predict the disease prognosis of glioblastoma patients. She was inspired after losing her grandmother to brain cancer. It's students like Dayna that inspire me every day to give me hope for the future. Thank you again, and I look forward to working together to expand access to STEM education.
We certainly thank the Congresswoman for her amazing message, as well as her continued work on behalf of women in STEM. Next, we'd like to hear the wonderful remarks video from Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chrissy Houlihan, and I represent Pennsylvania's 6th Congressional District. The community that I represent is located in the suburbs of Philadelphia, but I'm speaking to you now from Washington, D.C. I'm thrilled to celebrate International Women in Engineering Day with you. And first of all, I want to thank Discover E for yet another successful program. I apologize that I cannot join you live. Truly, speaking with women and girls in STEM makes me feel right at home. That's because STEM is personal for me. To those who may not know, I was only one of 10 women in my engineering major at Stanford. Unfortunately, the picture in engineering and in many other STEM fields is very similar today. As an engineer, it won't surprise you that I want to share some statistics with you all. First, women make up half of the population, but we only hold 16% of the engineering jobs. Simply put, we will be a stronger and more prosperous nation when we utilize the very full potential of our workforce, and that of course includes women. Second, 28% of Americans are from underrepresented minority communities, but just 11% have jobs in the physical sciences. We know that businesses and industry thrives when we embrace diversity. As a country, we aren't making the best use of the talent that we have, and we aren't offering our citizens the opportunities that they deserve. We have work to do, and that's where we all can help. There are so many reasons to be optimistic about our future, and that's what I want to talk about next. Events like the one like this remind us of the power of our potential, and I want to congratulate you all on taking an important first step by just being here today. That means that you care, and that means that there's a seat for you at the table, and it means that you are a proud woman or girl in STEM. And you have support here from Congress. The Women in STEM Caucus is a very bipartisan group that I helped to found to spread awareness on the importance of diversity in STEM, both in Congress and also with the public. So I look forward to continuing to partner with you all as we support the next generation of thought leaders, many of whom I'm confident are on this call. So thank you again to Discovery E for having me today, and I wish you all the great rest of your event and the greatest of futures as well. Thank you.
What a wonderful message from our amazing Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan. If I may mention, she is an Air Force veteran, an engineer, an entrepreneur, and an educator who is continuing her career of service as the first woman to ever represent Pennsylvania's 6th district in Congress. Houlihan is the daughter and granddaughter of Holocaust survivors who came to America with nothing. She grew up in a military family. Her parents met when her father and grandfather flew P-3s in the same Navy squadron. And all of these experiences really shaped her political vision of a great nation united by common values that leaves no one behind. And as she mentioned, she's doing amazing work in the caucus. So we really applaud her for her continued work and for all that she's doing for us. And we thank her for her remarks today. So a huge thank you to both of our congresswomen, as they are the co-chairs of the Congressional Women in STEM. And we're happy that they've kicked things off us. So guess what? Now it's time to introduce our distinguished panelists. So I will start with the first panelist, Kavitha Bharadwaj. She is currently serving as the staff scientist at TE Connectivity Corporate R&D. With a background in chemical engineering and a genuine passion for materials engineering, Kavitha has made valuable contributions to the new product development. Additionally, Kavitha actively serves as the co-chair for the WIN organization at TE, displaying her commitment to fostering diversity and inclusivity in the industry. Kavitha, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. And our next distinguished guest is Dayna Johnson, who serves as the president of the board of directors for the Society of Women Engineers. Hi, Sweester. How are you? That is an amazing organization that she's been involved in for over 2 decades. She is also the Emerging Technology Programs and Operations Leader at GE Gas Power. Welcome, welcome, Dayna.
Thank you, Kameelah.
And our next distinguished panelist, as the head of the DE&I at Collins Aerospace, Walton Price partners with and learns from leaders, colleagues, and subject matter experts around the world to ensure that Raytheon Technologies becomes a bold global leader in workforce DE&I. Walton has over 15 years of experience across the nonprofit and private sectors and has studied, lived, and worked in the United States, United Kingdom, and Singapore. Warm welcome to you, Walton.
Hi, everyone.
And finally, our next distinguished guest is none other than Dr. Ershela Sims, who is the executive director of the Women in Engineering Proactive Network. She has over 25 years of engineering and STEM work experience as an industry engineer, researcher, K-12 educator, and administrator. Throughout her career, Dr. Sims has worked to make engineering and other STEM fields more inclusive by serving as a mentor and developing outreach programs. Warm welcome to you, Dr. Ershela.
Thank you, Kameelah.
All right, so panelists, we are ready. We've got lots of people who have put messages in from all over. I'm seeing India, I'm seeing Togo, Pennsylvania. Oh my God, there's so many people that are here. So let's get into our questions. So let me start with this. So a couple of maybe talking points. We've got the workforce shortage. We've got the US Bureau of Labor that's predicting a shortfall of more than 6 million engineers by 2026. You know, we really got to do something about that. Also, there's large gaps in diversity. So tell me, panelists, what can you tell us about the impact and legacy of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs?
I can go ahead and jump in and start here.
Sure.
So I think, first of all, it's crucial that we have a diverse representation. I think Representative Houlihan said it very well. We need to make sure that we've got a seat at the table as women, as minorities. What I think really helps everybody is when our workforce is representative of the people that we support. And when I say workforce, in this case, it's the people designing things for all of us, right? That's what engineers do. So I think that's crucial. But one of the things that I think is really important is the work that goes into some of these programs. I'm going to broaden the definition of program here and go from a SWE perspective, Society of Women Engineers. Some of the work that we've done over the years, clearly we've not hit parity yet, but we're working to make sure that everybody understands that this is an accessible career for them, to make sure that they understand the importance of helping the next generation see what they can be, right? We've said this a lot in recent years. You can't be what you can't see. Without having those role models, without having those outreach programs, it's so hard to try and change what our workforce looks like.
Yes.
And Kameelah, if I could add to that,
Sure.
you know, in addition to having, you know, that diverse workforce, it's equally important that that workforce is inclusive. So, you know, not just add women and STIR, not just add, you know, other groups that are historically marginalized and STIR, but make sure that workplace is accepting and it's a place where they can thrive once they're there. And that's, you know, one of the things that WEPAN that we do is work to make a more inclusive workspace, whether that be in academia or, you know, in industry. And, you know, just following up on what Dayna and Chrissy said, you know, you need those different perspectives and experiences, not only when developing products, but also when addressing any of the critical issues that we have to address today. And, you know, a lot of the comforts, I'm sitting here in a house that's air conditioned, you know, without some diversity in thought, a diverse person, developing some of the things that they did, engineering, and then the carriers moved it forward, we wouldn't have modern comforts of AC today, stoplights, other things like that. So just keeping that in mind, that you do need, all perspectives when developing, designing products, creating programs, and things of the sort.
Dayna and Dr. Ershela, I couldn't agree with you all more. When you think about just looking around your room that you're in now, even this platform that we are, there are engineers and scientists and technicians that put this whole thing together. I'd like to mention there was a wonderful comment from someone that says STEM educators, particularly K through 12, is crucial. And what they said is we're having shortages in professional educators, just like all STEM industries. So it's not just our particular industries that we're all in, it's all over. So this messaging is really important. DEI is critical. So this year, Discover E released a new research report called Messages Matter during Engineers Week in February. This research explored high school students and parents of high school student careers, aspirations, their interests in engineering, and experimented with messages and ways to increase interest in engineering. So a few of the discoveries that were made were as follows: role models. They said seeing real and authentic people doing engineering was inspiring and significantly increased their students' interest in engineering. The other thing they said was students and their parents prioritized going to college over starting a career right away, and financial security is a top career concern for both. Got to have both. And another point they said was engineering is for everyone. It was the most appealing message, but also the least believable for students and their parents. So, panelists, may I invite you to answer this? When I say role model, what does that mean to you?
I think I can jump in on that and give my own personal experience with this.
Sure.
I think it's very important to inculcate that at a very young age, to look up to somebody. And one experience that I can talk about is when my children were in preschool, not even kindergarten. At a preschool stage, the school had a program called Career Week, where they requested for volunteer parents to come and talk about what they did at work, to just share it with those children. And I can tell you that that created a great impression on children that young. Even to this day, and my girls are, in higher elementary school, as well as one is going into middle school. Even to this day, they remember exactly what each parent shared about their career. And most of them were engineers. I also volunteered for that and sharing what I do in R&D here at TE. The other important thing is most companies should participate in the community in offering what is Bring Your Child to Work Day. That creates an impression as well when you open up and you bring children into your office space and show them what you do. It has an impact on them, and they feel more confident in selecting these career paths. And especially understanding, because high school students probably don't even understand what we do at work. So, bring your child to Work Day is an important event that I think is very underrated and not as well done across the country. But that's, I think, is a very important thing to do in trying to inspire children and show them what it is to work in an engineering job.
And Kavitha, if I can add, I hope that we continue to pick that back up post-COVID. I know a lot of those programs got paused for that, but I think it's going to be so important.
Correct. Yeah, I hope so too.
I would add one dimension to what you said, which is so beautiful. You talked about role models and their importance to children. I would also offer that role models are important to adults also. I definitely still am inspired by role models today myself, and I'm well into adulthood. So just to expand our view of what a role model is, I think at its heart, it's about bringing to light for people what could be possible for them, modeling different behaviors that they too can replicate. And I think that applies no matter what age you are, as long as you're still learning and curious.
Awesome. No, this is all great. I think those are wonderful examples as to how you can really spread the message. As you talk about role modeling, I start to think about mentoring, right? And the importance of having different people who have said those few words or phrases to help pull you along the way. Would any of you like to share just a very quick story about the impact that a mentor had on you? Because studies have shown that mentoring is commensurate with retentions, particularly in our field. So does anyone have a short story they'd like to share about the impact of a mentor?
I will. Oh, go ahead, Doctor.
Are you sure, Dayna? Okay.
I'm sure.
They're so polite, aren't they? Go ahead. Anyone, we've got time. Go for it.
So actually, my undergraduate advisor turned mentor had an impact on me that allowed me to pay it forward. And I think that's why it's so lasting. I took it more as just not someone I was going to get my PIN number so I could register for courses, but I really did build a relationship with this person. And later, he wrote me recommendations for graduate school. And later, I came back and there was a student who'd reached out to me when I had my NSBE junior chapter. He was president of NSBE at the same undergrad institution I went to, and he was looking for somewhere to do research. And so I put him in contact with my mentor because I had come back in contact with him again. I did leave one piece out. When I was looking for a postdoc, I reached out to him. He put me in contact with someone. I ended up getting a postdoc, and that person ended up being not only a great mentor, but a sponsor. And so when this student reached out to me, I put him in contact. Not only did he help him find a lab to get into, he took him into his lab. And so, it just, kept paying it forward. And then I had a summer STEM program. And part of the summer STEM programs for rising ninth graders, they had to do a research project during the next academic year with someone. This same mentor ended up taking one of my summer STEM students into his lab. So that mentor had an impact on me, but even a stronger impact because I saw him continue to pay that forward for generations beyond mine.
That's fantastic, Dr. Ershela. Just you sustain the relationship with the mentor, which is great. Dayna, what about you?
It's funny. I was also going to talk about a mentor turned sponsor, and it's a little reminiscent. I'm having a lot of feelings about it because his retirement lunch was Wednesday. And so I had the opportunity to reflect on it, obviously in a very positive light, but to have an opportunity where somebody can coach you and mentor you through some really hard points in your career, and then turn it around and risk their reputation to sponsor you for opportunities, for positions. I think those relationships are so crucial. And I don't think we as organizations spend enough time evaluating those mentors turned sponsors. We talk about mentors, we talk about sponsors, but you can definitely have somebody move from one to the other.
Wonderful. No, that's fantastic. And we've got amazing comments that are being posted. I see a parent said that, at their elementary school, they bring non-typical workers to school. So you could see people that look different, but they're doing impactful work, not just in our industry. So those are amazing. Please keep the comments going. We're reading them and discussing here at the same time.
I have a mentor story if it
Sure.
Be helpful to add. So from a slightly different perspective, mentoring sometimes can be a multi-year long relationship, like what Dr. Sims and Dayna describe. It can also happen in kind of one-off conversations or smaller moments. And so I'll share one that's a little bit like that. Many years ago, when I was contemplating going to business school and had been studying and working hard on the test, the GMAT, to qualify you for business school, I didn't yet feel like my scores were as strong as I wanted them. And so I was preparing to hold off for another year before I applied. And I had a mentor at the time who said, apply. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, the only thing you have to lose is that they'll say no, and then you'll stick to your current plan anyway. But if they say yes, you're one more year closer to where you want to go, one more year of earning potential, one more year, And so I said, all right, what the heck, I'll apply. And sure enough, I got in, proceeded with business school. And I think back on that sometimes and think, if I listened to myself and said, well, I wasn't ready, I wasn't qualified enough, or whatever story I was telling myself, I would be 1 to 2 years behind where I am today in my career, arguably. So even in those moments of advice that can really kind of impact your life in ways that are measurable.
That's fantastic. Go beyond yourself. You never know who else is on your team besides you, right? And you never know who's watching. I think that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Walton. So earlier I mentioned that engineering is for everyone, and engineering is a career that we all can get into. You can't be afraid of it. It's not daunting. There's something for everyone. But you don't need to graduate from a traditional four-year university to have a successful career in engineering. So that was one of the most appealing messages, but also the least believable, for the students and parents from the Messages Matters study that Discovery did. So my question is do you believe engineering is a career that is open to everyone? What are some of the steps we can all take to make this more believable? So I don't know if Kavitha, if you want to kind of give a personal view on it, your experience as a staff scientist, which is an amazing position. I can only imagine what you do at TE Connectivity.
No, absolutely. And I think the main message that I want to tell people here is be the person that breaks the cycle.
Oh, wow.
And just from my own personal experience, because in an R&D environment, it's extremely conservative. And normally only people with a PhD program even get to apply to an R&D position. And I've been here at TE with the R&D group for the last 13 years. I started as an intern. I do not have a PhD, but I just had the motivation and drive, and I was essentially just very curious. And so I went to seek after things, and that's probably why I made it to a staff scientist position out here at TE without a PhD. And most of my peers in my group all have a PhD. And so all you have to do is seek that one chance to prove yourself, and there's no end to it. You'll always find immense amount of opportunities. And I'll never forget, this goes back to the role model and mentor that you said that we were just discussing earlier. The VP of my group once called me in and said, hey, I'm hearing some things like you're not very confident about yourself because you're the only one in the group that doesn't have a PhD. I just want you to know that you can do anything you want. And I'll never forget that statement. And that's kept me going all along. So I would say just be that person that breaks the cycle. Anybody can do it. We have technicians in our group who are out of a 2-year program, and they're experts in whatever they do with, handling all the equipment. And so there's always opportunities in the engineering space, even if you don't have a 4-year degree, or you can just get out of high school and just show the interest and curiosity and do things.
Oh, that's one of my favorite C words, curiosity. That's amazing. Walton, just from the Collins Aerospace lens, you having the lens of DEI, can you kind of share, some of the opportunities that are there? We're talking about 2 years, we're talking about technicians, 4-year, what are those opportunities look like?
Thank you. I'm excited to have a chance to answer this question or explore it a little bit. So at Collins Aerospace, we have approximately 75,000 employees, and 20,000 of those people are engineers. So that's 20,000 engineers around the world working for Collins Aerospace on a whole host of aerospace related systems. And to do that, I'll say it this way, any airplane you look in the sky has got one or more systems or parts from Collins Aerospace on it. To have that kind of an impact on an industry or on the world, you've got to rely on a whole host of creative and curious problem solvers that are contributing to that from a whole variety of perspectives. So we have multiple disciplines that are reflected within our organization. We've got everything from, maybe the traditional engineer that you might think of, to people doing software engineering roles and working a little bit more isolated and coding and those sorts of things, to people who spend their whole day working in team settings and who are not behind a desk and who are standing up on the manufacturing floor from a manufacturing engineering perspective. So everything from people with 2-year degrees to certificate programs to 4-year degrees to PhDs so we've got everything from technical fellows who represent the very tip top of the iceberg in terms of professional accomplishment and education, probably all the way down to people who are working in a whole host of engineering roles. And it takes all of us together to have the impact that I described. So couldn't agree with the message more, that engineering is for everyone, and love what Kavitha just teed up, because as long as you are a curious person, as long as you want to know how the world works and you have some kind of general interest or desire to improve things, improve a process, improve a product, make a contribution, you can be an engineer. There's so many different ways in. So anyway, I'll stop there, but we see the whole spectrum at Collins Aerospace.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I think companies like Collins Aerospace, even my company, Merck, and many others are focusing on what we say skills first, right?
Yeah.
Everyone plays a part in discovery and science and all those type of things, and it covers all industries. If we look at our chat, there are people from education, from automotive, from pharma, from everywhere, and you need all those type of minds to create what we do. And I think Dr. Ershela, you said it best, whether it's the room we're in, the air conditioner that's on, it doesn't matter. All of that has engineering and science, and you need Kavitha's word, curiosity. Curiosity starts off. So awesome. All right. So let's kind of move a bit. So one aspect of making the engineering open to everyone message more believable is working to create an inclusive environment and help people to feel like they belong. So the Discoveries report, which I think we put the link in the chat for our persons that are on, it also found that in workplaces where there was an unusually high retention rate for female engineers, all the women revealed that they had to come into the field strongly believing in themselves as engineers. The authors found that the most striking features of the interviews were the confidence with which all women asserted that they were good engineers and that they belonged in engineering, although for some of the women, it had taken them time to feel like they belonged. So here's a question. What factors have supported you in your career, and what do you see needs to be done to help women thrive more in engineering, to move them beyond merely just surviving or persisting? So panelists, can you weigh in?
I'm happy to start. I would say one thing that can help women thrive more, I know a lot of times these are well-meaning, but programs and initiatives that seem like they are fixing women can actually do harm. So less emphasis on that and more on supporting, the women where they are. Like, we don't need to be fixed to persist in engineering. And so, just saying we need to be there and supporting us and being there instead. So taking that standpoint.
Awesome. Anyone else would like to weigh in?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump
Dayna?
in. For me, it's really been finding that network, finding that tribe of women. And shameless plug, I'm going to say that it's my Sweesters, right? Kameelah and other folks on the call here who have chimed in as being SWE members. You find those people, and they're the ones, Ershela, to your point, they're the ones that give you the confidence. They're the ones that you call them up and you say, there's no way I'm going to finish this project. There's no way I'm going to get this job. They won't even interview me. And they give you a swift kick in the behind and tell you to get your stuff together and go do it because they believe in you when you don't. So to get over that hump, to help you build that confidence, for me, it's always been that tribe. It's been those people that have my back and know that I can do it before I believe that I can do it.
That's great.
And I think, I'll spin on that. To that point, employers out there, support your employees in going to whatever it is that they find that sense of belonging and they find their tribe.
And I also like to mention, since we all have a tendency to use acronyms and different sayings, Sweester is a very amicable term that us members of SWE, the Society of Women Engineers, use to refer to one another. So Sweester, like sister, is what we're referring to. So just wanted to make sure we're clear. So
we also have Sweeple, just so you know,
Oh,
Kameelah.
yes, we do say Sweeple. How are my Sweeple doing? And where are my Sweesters? Got a whole language book that we need.
I'll add something to this question here. So
Sure.
You all have talked about, I think part of the heart of the question was, how do you create belonging? How do you help women thrive in engineering? So we've done a lot of research internally and externally around what is belonging exactly. We kind of talk about it, but what is it and what drives it? How can you create an environment where people feel like they belong? And in general, it really comes down to three, what I would say are very simple things. It's the people around you feel valued and supported, seen and heard. I'm comfortable at work. I feel valued. I work alongside people like me. And that can mean a whole host of things. In the context of this conversation, there are other women at work with me. And we know it's particularly important to see those women in leadership positions. And then the third is, I know that here at this place, my career goals will be supported. So this is not rocket science, right? These seem like some basic concepts. So if the question is, how can I create an environment to help women in STEM thrive, value them, support them, get to know them, hire more women, understand what their career goals are, and help them reach those goals. And the importance of the communities you're highlighting, it can't be overstated in creating a sense of belonging. So yes to everything, and just a couple other things to consider.
That's fantastic. Kavitha, I think you shared with us that your group literally said, you may not have a PhD, but you belong here. Do you want to share a little bit more about how that made you feel?
It made me, so It is intimidating when you walk into a meeting and you have a bunch of PhDs and you try and pose your own point of view on why something may or may not work. But but I'm lucky to be in an environment where we have, at least I'm in Fremont in California, so nearly half my group is women. So I feel very supported and feel part of the group because there's equal representation in my space. But there are other regions where it's not as equal, and you want to promote it, and this is all to all the men out here as well. Be supportive of the women in your community. They push your wives to do things, push your mothers and sisters and whatnot to, move ahead and feel part of the system.
That's fantastic. That sense of belonging, as the younger person say, is just everything, period, point blank. Sense of belonging, everyone included. So, all right, panelists, let's go to the next most interesting topic. So when doing STEM outreach, one topic that some people consider taboo and shy away from is the S word, salary. So knowing that financial security is important to kids and their parents, like, how do we talk about salary or even answer the how much do you make question from students? So panelists, can you weigh in on that? How do you approach and react to that question?
Clearly, everybody's dying to talk about this one. I'll start. I will take the low-hanging fruit and let my friends here on the call take the harder part of it. That's what happens when you speak up first, right? So I think we've actually talked about this some at work lately because the next generation is talking about it. They're talking about it as soon as they get into the workforce. They know what their counterparts are making. So it's going to become, I think, with some of the pushes we've seen to normalize pay across different roles within a company, I think it's going to become more and more common knowledge. But with that, I'd say there's still always the caveat of you can throw out a buffer. You don't have to say down to the cent what you make. And I think that that's comfortable for people to grasp onto. But the other thing that I always encourage people to look at is what's the total package, right? Like, yes, I think it's great that we can talk about engineers make a fair amount of money, but in the companies that we're talking about on this panel, we're working for companies that offer good benefits, that offer flexibility, that offer things like work from home. And what is that worth to you? Especially, so I'm a working mom, full disclosure. To me, the flexibility of working from home, even though, again, full disclosure, my office is also the kids' playroom. If I turned off my background, you might be a little astonished. But to have the flexibility for me to do that, for me, that comes at a really high dollar amount if I were to change jobs and have to go into the office every day.
And I'll just follow up on Dayna, or Walton, I'm sorry, you were starting to speak. Go ahead.
Go ahead and I'll weigh in after.
Okay. One of the things that I do when, asked about salary, I presented in terms of a range, because again, there is a range. It's important for people to know, especially women and other marginalized groups, simply because if they don't have that idea when they're negotiating, they may not know what to ask for. So I think it is important to share ranges. And so what I've done in the past with STEM outreach programs is share numbers for ranges by discipline, so they have an idea. But again, also that important piece of knowing what your benefits are, going into, and things like that you can even ask for. And, when I was looking for faculty positions, having the benefit of a sponsor who could sit me down and say, this is what your salary, you should be asking for this range, and you should be making sure you have this and this and that. And so we can take it more holistically and not just the salary, kind of like Dayna said, but what other things are part of that package, because the entire package, you may have this great salary over here, but you may get only 1 week of vacation and never have time to use it. So is that really where you want to be versus this other place that allows you to work from home and they give you 4 weeks of vacation a year? So they're different things to look at.
I love that advice. To pull the thread on that just a little bit more, I think it would, so I've worked in HR for 15 years or so, and in a lot of different capacities. And first of all, if a candidate does not ask about salary at all, I kind of wonder what's going on there. Like, I view it as a mark of, okay, this person has a backbone. They're going to advocate for themselves professionally, like if you ask the question. So I actually view it favorably when people make the ask. But I love what you said about ask about the whole package. Essentially, in HR terms, what you're describing is what's the value proposition for me to choose you as my employer? And if you ask that question, tell me what it's like to work there. Tell me, of course, I'm interested in salary, but tell me about the benefits and programs you offer and what the working environment is like. To me, that's an extremely reasonable question for somebody to ask, and any company should be prepared to answer that question for you. The second dimension of what I would offer is that I really appreciate and respect the financial stability concerns. I think you mentioned, Kameelah, that was one of the main priorities for both students and their parents, which certainly makes a lot of sense, particularly in the United States when you think about the debt load. So seek out employers like ours, but we're not the only ones, that offer student loan repayment programs as part of their benefit, which you would never learn about if you only asked about salary. Seek out employers like ours, but we're not the only one, who offer tuition reimbursement or employee scholar programs that will pay for your subsequent certifications, degrees, things you need to continue to grow and stay relevant in terms of your skills. Like, those are game-changing benefits that are not direct salary benefits, but that can certainly change your financial picture in meaningful ways for potentially generations, depending on where you come from. So I echo what everyone's saying about think about that bigger picture, because there's a strategy here. You could start with us and work on the shop floor and we will pay for every single degree after that point. And you won't have a cent of student loan debt. So again, other employers offer similar benefits too, but that can be another strategy to highlight if you're playing the medium to long game.
Yeah, no, Walton, I think that's great. And panelists, thank you so much for so many different perspectives on salary. I think you all hit it best. We've got folks that come from financially completely disadvantaged backgrounds, and they may be the first and only breadwinner for their families. And those are things that we have to be conscious of. So they may not even know what to negotiate, how to negotiate. And I think there's some great comments in the chat about services that are offered through Swede and NSBE. And you guys talked about mentors and role model. Ask them so you know what to ask when you're negotiating, as you said, Kavitha, your value when you're being presented to a company, right? So there's lots of different resources. I think it's great to look at all. All right, so as you all know, we are celebrating International Women in Engineering Day. So what is the one piece of advice you would give to our audience about how to continue to support girls and women in engineering and technology? Not everyone at once.
I'll start. I was thinking about my answer last night, and I was prepared for us to run out of time. So I have a short answer.
Not at all. Come on, and we got lots of questions in the audience, and we're saving that time for them because they're ready.
My short answer is show up. Show up. Show up as a role model, show up as a volunteer, show up as a people leader, show up as a parent, show up as a peer, show up as a colleague. Like, do your part. It doesn't matter if you're in STEM yourself. It doesn't matter if you have a PhD or not. Whatever the thing is, the limiting belief you're holding about whether or not you can add value to this effort or conversation, throw it out and show up.
And I'll dovetail because I feel like mine was a subset of that. Maybe we should have coordinated on this one. But be a role model, right? To Walton's point, it can be as a parent, as an employee, as whatever, but be that person that, especially as women, for the next generation of girls, especially if you have another minority segment that you check for that group of people, let them see what you're doing, because you can't be what you can't see.
And dovetailing on that, I think we were all on the same wavelength. I was just going to say, be there, be present, because you never know who you may influence by your presence.
Yeah. And, just adding on to all the other people that we're trying to influence, don't be shy to be that person that breaks the cycle. And I think that will make a lot of change.
I love that, Kameelah.
Yeah.
I do too. I really do.
I love that. I feel like I'm getting so many power words today. Curiosity, don't be shy, show up, people care, you're valued, all those things are great. All right, so we have lots of questions from our audience, and audience, please bear with us. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. All right. So one of the ones that I'd love to go to first is, it was submitted and it says, I am the first prospective female engineer in my family. Applause, applause to you. Wow. And the comment says, my family isn't supportive. So how do I cope?
I'll go ahead and jump in. So not only am I the first woman engineer in my family, I'm the first college grad in my family. And I have faced a lot of comments from my family over the years of things like, do you think you can do this? And you better not get this degree and have kids just to plop them in daycare and things like that, that even though they may have been rooted in some thought that they had about me somewhere along the way, were not helpful. So my low-hanging fruit piece of advice, right? We love our family, even if we didn't get to pick them, they're your family. Don't let them be your tribe. Know what it is that you really want, that you want to push for, but find your tribe that's going to support you outside of your family. Take your struggles to them, because the last thing that I want to see a woman engineer go through is you take a struggle that you had at work to your I'm going to not even say family, to whoever it is that you feel like didn't support you, and they continue to not support you. Find the person that's going to pick you up and help you get across the finish line.
I love it. I feel like you're describing, find your chosen family, which is certainly a concept that people in the LGBTQ community are extremely familiar with. But I also feel like it might apply in this case, per your comments, Dayna. Find your chosen professional family, because your family, your family, they may not ever really totally get on board or understand.
Yeah. Thank you, Dayna, for that. And I think that leaders like you, Walton, Dr. Ershela, and Kavitha, you guys exemplify that. And if you look at our panel, we all come from different walks of life, different expressions, and we're all so excited about what we do in STEM. But the reality is, it could be the first time for persons, and families may not know how to support. So I think that's great. And sometimes, Walton, your family may find you. It may not be the chosen family you see, but they will find you. Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, Walton, I think it was a perfect segue to kind of talk about inclusion, right? We've got a question that came in and said, can you speak to the inclusion of trans women and non-binary people? And through your lens as a DEI leader in your company, can you speak a little bit more about that inclusion piece?
Sure, I'll approach it from a general perspective. I really appreciate the question, and shout out to Pride Month here in June now. It's such a critical part of the inclusion piece. I mean, if we the LGBTQIA plus community is one of our priority talent segments at Collins when we think about our DE&I strategy, because and I'm really proud to share that Raytheon and Collins by extension has been acknowledged for multiple years by the Human Rights Campaign as being a leading employer for members of the community. And what I have come to learn over the years, because I'm still in my learning journey as well as an ally, is just how important everything is, from the policies and programs you offer, the inclusive healthcare benefits that you offer as an organization, all the way down to the small signals, the pronouns in my Zoom signature, the Zoom backgrounds, the ally flag you might have. Everything matters for this community, because a lot of you don't feel safe in your day-to-day lives, depending on where you are in the world and your workplaces. And I could go on and on and on, and that's more than what you were asking. But look for an employer that explicitly states that they are a safe and inclusive place where members of the queer community can thrive. That's what you're looking for.
Excellent.
Oh, by the way, I've recently seen the research that shows in the United States up to a fifth of the latest generation are identifying as part of this community. So the employers that aren't getting out ahead of this and aren't being more proactive in their inclusive efforts, they're missing out in terms of the pipeline in significant ways as we look to the future. And Kameelah, you already highlighted the shortage that we're all facing. So throwing that out there too.
Yeah, no, that's great, Walton. And, I was on a session this morning through the MERC Capability Network. And one of the things they said is, don't look at a disability or a differently able person first. Look at their skills, right? So whether it's the LGBTQIA plus community or, the Black community, anything, let us focus now on what really matters is the skills of a person. I think that's something to really kind of drive home. So we've got some questions coming from undergrad, so we want to make sure we give them some advice. So the first is, I am an incoming first-year chemical engineering student. What should I expect academically and socially in a university? if you all could, how did you prepare yourselves? Walton's like, let's give it to the resident engineers here.
Socially is going to depend on size of university. So there are going to be some different aspects. I will say that they should consider joining one of these STEM professional societies they've heard us discuss, because, NSBE, SWE, SHIP, whatever they may identify with, joining robotics club, but getting some extracurricular, they said chemical engineering, what am I thinking of? Novachet, some organization that may be in your discipline, as well as, so you keep that balance both in and out of the classroom, but that kind of supports the classroom. And first year engineering, depending, again, I know we're working, away from this, and I've heard Dr. Jenna Carpenter talk about this of weeding in versus weeding out. But historically, that first year in a lot of engineering programs has been designed to weed out. So coming in with that mindset and knowing, and making sure you get around that to move on to your next year. And again, like I said, not all, and things have changed over the years, and not all engineering programs are that way, but a lot of them are designed that first year to try to weed out. So being aware of that and not coming into it surprised, and then making sure you do have some sort of social outlet. Again, not knowing what type or size of institution you're at, I would suggest, because this is where you're going to get your mentors and you're going to meet your peers and find your tribe, as we've described, engaging in some sort of STEM professional society or some sort of STEM outreach club.
Excellent, excellent. And Dayna and Kavitha, can you all touch on how do you go about networking as an undergraduate student? So to Dr. Ershela's point, you find these organizations, okay, you join as a member, then what? How do you network? What do you do first, second, third? What do you do?
Well, I think that it was the message where, be there. So if normally these cohorts will have events that they put up, and it presents a lot of opportunities for you to just participate, to just even attend those talks or meetings and such, to just be there to learn from the community.
I'll add to, sorry, you're learning about me that I always have something to add, and here we go.
Same.
Two quick things to add. One is look for those internship experiences during the summer, if paid internship experiences that will get you that real life engineering experience between school years, because those are those moments when you take the academics of it and you apply it and see it applied in real life. And that might shift your thinking in some ways. It could reinforce the discipline you've chosen. It could open your eyes to new disciplines that you hadn't considered. So be intentional and thoughtful about those internship co-op opportunities. That should be a definite part of your thinking. And then the second piece, I'm going to pass along some advice from my mother with respect to networking, because I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable networking. People love to talk about themselves, period. Not because we're self-absorbed, but we just enjoy it. Probably why I'm talking so much on this panel. So when you get in a networking situation, or you join SWE or SHIP or any of these things, one really good tip is just ask people about themselves. Ask them about who they are. Ask them what they're learning about. What are you learning right now in class? Tell me about a cool project you've worked on. It's an easy way in, and people will light up and start talking.
Well, go ahead, Dayna. No, go for it.
I was going to throw out my low-hanging piece of advice that nobody touched on, and I'm really surprised. If you're going into engineering, find the smartest kids in your class and do homework together, period.
So everyone crowded around you, Dayna, is that what you're saying? They all crowded around you? Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. Walton, I was going to say, I think it's great that you're so vocal, because D&I leaders should be very vocal. You should be the most vocal, because you're all the ones that are not just, framing up the environment, but helping to really, move it through the organization. So don't ever change. Don't ever stop. Tell all your cohorts to keep that going. We need these conversations. Diversity is here to stay. It ain't going nowhere. It's here. All right, so we have a really great question that came in. I'm loving the undergrads that are on. We're so happy that you're here. So, and hopefully I could say her name. Madala Yang says, I'm a rising junior, currently in my second internship in the automotive industry. I have an interest in big technical companies, but simply just don't know how I can approach the idea of moving forward into a bigger company. Any advice, panelists? How can Madala get herself navigated to a big company?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. Shortest answer I can give you.
Yeah,
Madala, you heard
definitely
it
that.
first. Connect. Dayna?
So my background, my first decade of my career was at a company that was 25 people when I left, and I went to GE. That's quite a big jump. Unfortunately, it's going to take some persistence, but for me in that case, it was finding the person that believed in me. Not, again, shameless plug for SWE, the skills I brought to the table through the SWE leadership experiences I'd had. So I think that, finding what it is that those companies want, whether it's the leadership skills, whether it's something else very particular about a technical skill set, and just don't give up. Find that tribe that'll keep you moving forward on that.
Excellent. No, these are great. So I'm going to combine two questions that I see here, and panelists, if you can weigh in. So the first part of the question says, what advice do you have for a recent college graduate going into the workforce? And then also, let's say the second part is, what advice do you have for making your mark in the professional space as a young woman in the field? Where do you look for sources of confidence and empowerment?
I'll
take
offer,
that one.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll offer one piece of advice. Regardless of discipline, regardless of anything, show up and ask good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ask thoughtful questions. Nobody's expecting you to be the top technical expert at a company on day one, week one, month one, year one. What they want to see is, are you agile? Are you interested? Are you curious? And the fastest way to convey that to other people is to ask intelligent questions and be curious about the work that's going on at the organization that you're a part of.
Right, I echo you. So one piece of advice for anybody that's joining a new organization is don't expect for people to come and introduce themselves to you. Just be that person that'll go around offices, and it's much harder in this current working setting because people are working remote, they're working hybrid, so it's much harder to do that networking. But to the best of your ability, just be there in the workspace, walk around and say hi and chat about it and ask people what they do. That's a really good way to get into the system and be part of the system. So that's the biggest piece of advice that I can give. And I've seen that it is actually a game changer. I've seen new employees that have done that and have gotten a lot more comfortable and felt part of the network, and some that have been a little shy and withheld. So definitely do that.
And I'd add one little piece, when I was in industry, don't be afraid to volunteer for new projects. We had this project that was going to be doing something with the FBI, and I volunteered. I'd been there less than a year, but I got picked. But if I hadn't volunteered, I had a 0% chance of getting picked. So, step up, put yourself out there.
I think to that point, if it were easy, everybody would do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get into something that you volunteered for and you think, oh my goodness, this is harder than I thought I signed up for, it's okay.
Wow, that's wonderful. There's more advice that's put in the chat. Someone says, check out STEM sororities and fraternities. I'm seeing links here to, the AICHE, that's the Association for Chemical Engineers. Let's make sure we shout them out also, and many others. So please look through the chat. We've actually come to the end of our Q&A time. I'm so sorry. I wish I could have gone through more of the questions here that many of you have. But we do want to give a virtual round of applause for our distinguished panelists today, Kavitha, Dr. Ershela, Walton, and Dayna. Thank you so much for helping us to celebrate International Women in Engineering Day and for speaking with us so candidly. Your remarks, your thoughts, the work that you're doing in each of your spaces, will really help us to move this forward. So thank you on behalf of everyone. So I also want to thank our partners, of course, the Congressional Women in STEM Caucus and WEPAN. Thank you, Dr. Ershela, for collaborating with us, and our Persist Series sponsors, Bechtel Corporation and TE Connectivity. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. I've seen your names. I know people are connecting on LinkedIn and other ways, but thank you so much for tuning in and for sharing your thoughts. And please pass the message on to everyone. I do hope that you all have a wonderful summer. For those of us who are in the Northeast, please remember that Discover E will be back in the fall with more webinars. But in the meantime, I'd really love for you to check out the Persist series on-demand sessions, and also the Messages Matters. I believe that was put in the chat. Please go to discovery.org. You'll be able to get to the links. And thank you for allowing me to host and moderate this session. What a wonderful day we've had. Thank you again, panelists. And on that note, enjoy the rest of your day engineering the world. Here we go.
Thanks, Kameelah.
You're welcome. Thank you.